So something else we want to talk about here today is we want to talk about Keanu Reeves, because we're in the Keanu-sance. It's that time, that's everyone, we had to bring the Matrix back. We had to, everything. We're bringing Constantine back, Shane. We're getting Constantine again. We're getting everything that Keanu Reeves has ever been in, I believe. We're going to get it again.
I mean, yep, we got the Bill and Ted. We got a new Bill and
Ted. We got it, right. Anything. If you just say it, and I'll be like, yeah, it's a possibility.
Maybe they'll do a Point Break too.
Yeah, I can see it happening. Yeah. I can see it happening, and I would go see it.
Yeah,
because I love Keanu Reeves. We all love Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is great. So apparently, just a few years ago, sorry, excuse me, he came out.
Last year,
and he was a co-creator, correct?
That's correct.
So a co-creator of a comic series called BRZRKR, is how I believe it's pronounced. So it's looking like now that they may turn this into a live-action film, and that Keanu may actually direct it. Now, there's no information about whether he would star in it or be in it at all as an actor, but definitely that he would direct it. Now, we had to do some real deep diving to find out if Keanu Reeves have ever directed a movie, because it feels like it's something we would know, but it's not something we know, because we did find out that he has directed a movie. Shane, what was the name of the movie?
Man from Tai Chi, I believe.
Man from Tai Chi. And it was a
co-production between America and China.
Okay.
In fact, it had Mandarin and Cantonese language as well as English.
It's we looked it up on Rotten Tomatoes. It was sitting at like a 71% critic reviews. I mean, it looks like it was well made. And you even mentioned that Woo had.
Yeah, John Woo had good things to say about it, and I'm a huge John Woo fan, so I'm sold.
And he's a huge martial arts fan, so if he's watching this movie and saying good things about it, then that sounds good. Honestly, after seeing this, I might have to check that movie out. Really, it's definitely something that I mean, you read the little synopsis about it. It sounds like a million other movies that I've seen, but it sounds like it's something I would be interested in. But that being said, with only one, Shane, as a director yourself, with only one thing under his belt, I mean, he obviously has been in Hollywood and been acting and been a part of the production side of a lot of things, including John Wick series, which is doing really well right now. But what are your thoughts on a guy that only has one under his belt, directing this new comic book adaptation that probably has, a lot of fans behind it?
Well, I hope it has a lot of fans because the comic looks pretty cool. Yeah, and it's a Keanu-sance. So, I think when I looked at the book, I'm really interested in what they're going to do on this movie because it seems really cool. So it's about this immortal warrior and his exploits over time. That was the very briefest of synopsis I was able to find. But it makes you wonder, are they going to stick to one time for the movie? Or are they going to have this span multiple generations? Are we going to see maybe it starts in the medieval period and works its way to modern, a Highlander type situation? So, there's a lot of possibilities with this movie. So it seems really cool. It also seems kind of a silent character as well, so that benefits.
Which is very, very Keanu-like.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think those roles benefit him the most. I think this is a really cool idea, and I don't blame them for doing it. He's got a lot of, like you said, built-in fan appeal. He's got terrific numbers to where they're already coming out with a Cyberpunk 2.
Sure, but specifically, what do you think about the idea of having him be the guy that directs it?
I mean, when you've been on enough movie sets that Keanu's been on, you better be ready to direct. Even him. By this point, it's seeped in to know how to make a good movie. I mean, you're around creative people, and you got to understand, too, in Hollywood, I would think, I have no idea how people, view how movies are made, but, the director,
nothing like it's actually is probably.
Well, he assigns a cinematographer. So the cinematographer and him are going to talk about what do you want the scene to look like. Oh, I want it to be
he's going to have a lot of
light.
people around him.
Yeah, so, he's going to describe his concepts, and he's artist, obviously. He's a musician as well. So, you know, he's a very creative person, and he's going to assemble a great team to make sure they make a, you know, a really good movie. So I have no doubt that this thing could be killer.
Yeah, and look, man, I mean, from the panels that I looked at online, I mean, it looks great. It looks like a fan-made Keanu Reeves comic. I mean, come on, who doesn't want to see this adapted? Another thing, the other question I have for you, Shane, is if he does, if they do go through with this, they do make it, and they have Keanu direct it. Does he star in it? Does he play?
Oh yeah. I mean, you have to. It's a character is based on him, right?
Right. Yeah. So in my mind, you have to, if you're directing it, and this comic book character is based on you, that you got to play this character, right? So not only will we maybe potentially, and again, there's no word out about whether he'll be in it or star in it, but we potentially get him playing this character too, which, like you said, you know, or I was saying, it totally falls into the look and feel of who Keanu Reeves is. You know. There's been a lot of, recently in the past 3 or so years, there's been a lot of murmurs about him joining the MCU and who he would be. And recently I've heard something good, a good option of Doctor Doom.
Oh, that'd
be
cool.
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool. People were talking about him maybe being Moon Knight would be cool, which maybe, but I love Keanu Reeves, and I almost watch anything with him in it. We have watched a few things in the past few years that were like smaller that he did that were just, I mean, just some of that stuff's just not great. It really isn't. I mean, even, I don't know if you were able to catch the new Matrix movie, but I mean, you know, you want to love it. You want to, because again, you know, to me, in my opinion, the greatest action movie ever made is The Matrix.
You got a good case for that.
And you know, it's the newest Matrix. It's just not the same, and the Wachowskis just over time have just not been making as good as stuff. And so he's also been around a lot of bad film sets, a lot of bad filmmakers, or I hate to say that word, but people that aren't making the greatest stuff all the time. So you got that too. And again, you got a guy that's got one movie directed under his belt. Now it is, ironically, a martial arts movie or something, you know, so it kind of fits into this vein of the character that he plays in the comic book too. And not to mention that Keanu has tons of martial arts training in real life. Like, he does a lot of his own stunts, his own action stuff. I mean, the dude is just, he's great. He's also just a wonderful human being. Like, he gives a lot back to the industry as well. And so it would be really cool to see this, and I'm excited to see it. Shane, if this comes out, Keanu's starring in it, he's directing it, you go see this in theaters?
You know, I don't know if I'm seeing this in the theaters. You're right. It's kind of a gamble. It might, you know, if I'm seeing a lot of movies, it would be, you know, let's say, I don't know. It does sound like a good popcorn film.
Yeah.
You know, midnight screening would be fun.
Sounds
yeah,
like,
a great streaming one, you know, because you don't know what you're going to get. You're absolutely right. I think we've entered the phase of Keanu Reeves, the Nicolas Cage phase.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of content. Is all of it great? And there will probably be a phase in 10 years where we look back and go, no, Keanu Reeves is a goddamn genius. Yeah. It's like we are now entering that phase with Nick Cage. Yeah. Where we are all finally realizing that this guy was always right. He was always the hardest and greatest working actor in Hollywood at his time. So who knows what we'll get. Do you know what movie I would love to see Keanu make, write, and direct and create? You know how there's those on the internet, those pictures of is Keanu Reeves a vampire?
Oh, yeah, sure.
How about Keanu Reeves starring as Keanu Reeves, the vampire?
Oh,
and we get that
movie.
Great. Yeah.
It'd be great because he may be a vampire.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
him and like Paul Rudd.
Lean into it. There you go. All the cameos they could get for that. You know, again, you know, Nicolas Cage shows up. So.
Right.
So that would be fun.
Well, it reminds me of something I recently watched, Shane. It was a movie called The Samaritan, and it's on Amazon, which I believe you have. You should go check it out. It's got Rocky, Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I
gotta
feel
see
like
it.
You would like.
How did I not even know about this?
Right. Well, I'll tell you why. Because the pandemic came and it kind of got shelved for a while. And then when it was about to go back to theaters, then all of a sudden it was like, ooh, this is going straight to streaming. And then people like me who were excited for it, like, uh-oh, that's not a good sign, because like we were talking about, the other day about, we live in the time of the golden age of comic book era movies. And to think like if Scott Pilgrim or the Chronicle or Hancock would come out today, how well it would do. So then you have this movie it's called The Samaritan, and it's based off the comic Nemesis. You know what Nemesis is?
Is that the Mark Miller
Yes.
book? Oh, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
great book.
So Samaritan is like his brother.
I got to see this.
You got to see it. I don't want to ruin anything
Yeah,
for
please.
you either.
Yeah. Oh, my God, this sounds
long
incredible.
And the short of it is it was a movie that I kind of went into on shaky ground because, they pulled it from theaters, and I had been waiting for it for so long. I had never even seen a trailer for it, but just the idea of it, that, he's kind of this retired superhero that's now just, an old dude on a bus. And
that sounds so badass.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, okay, I'm on board.
And honestly, it's a good movie. And there's this twist at the end that maybe kind of predictable, but not completely. I mean, I think we're a little bit more quick with those kind of things personally, so it's maybe easier for us to pick up. But especially for your average going movie fan, I think that the twist is definitely like one of those Shyamalan things at the end where it's like, whoa, I didn't see this coming. But it still got me good enough that the twist was great, but I like said it right before it happened because I just knew it. But it's great. It really was. And it overall, once the movie ends, it's not, I see why they didn't put it in theaters. Like, it probably wouldn't have done that well. But it was a great movie, again, to just kind of put on and sit at home and just kind of watch and chill out and hang out. And that's what this Keanu Reeves movie would be more like to me. It wouldn't be such a big spectacle. There's a couple of shots in The Samaritan that look really great that are they're less superhero-ish and more like, him getting hit by a car type of thing, seeing stuff like that than it is seeing people, use powers or something like that. But yeah, it was a great movie, and that's kind of how I see this Berserker movie being, to me, as being more of probably something that's on streaming. Now, that being said, I mean, again, we are in the Keanu-sance, so right now it would make sense for them to try to cash in,
Why not?
Like, yeah. I mean, I know you haven't seen any of the John Wick films, have you?
Sadly, I haven't. I did see Nobody, and so I'm super excited to see the John Wick
But
film.
we're hitting number 4. We're hitting 4, and when it comes to, box office successes for the price of what movies cost to make, I mean, nothing's doing better than John Wick out there. So, and then you got Keanu Reeves. I mean, they're well made, and I can see this falling in that same vein, and I could see them trying to maybe put it out in theaters. But for me, I'm not sure if it's something that I would actually go out to theaters and see. And the same thing with Samaritan. At first I was excited and thought, I would go to theaters to see this. But then once I seen the trailers and then I knew it was coming to streaming, I guess by that point it was like, well, this is, it's kind of like my brother was here the other day, and he was like, well, our mom was trying to get him to go to a movie, and he's like, why would I do that? It's just going to be free on one of the apps in a month or two.
And that's how a lot of people think.
Right? And
the thing is, we're in a new era of movies where there will eventually be some new criteria that we don't have right now that will judge success for a film. For the longest time, it's been box office. Could we get an audience out to the theater? So, but now, obviously, that's not a great comparison because a lot of people do stay home and wait for it. So there will be something, how do these people make their money back? Who knows, right?
Right.
We'll get there. It's a brave new world.
Right.
For movies.
And that's the thing. I mean, until we have kind of a gauge for streaming, because, I mean, take Hocus Pocus 2 for an example. Yeah, it's the number 1 movie ever on Disney Plus, but what does that mean for this?
Who knows? Did it get how many more subscribers are coming in for Hocus Pocus?
No way. So the way they gauge theirs, and this is the thing, is that none of it's regulated like television is. Mm-hmm. There's no one there to say, hey, this is how you have to say, right? So with Netflix, they count it as like they had to view it for at least 10 minutes to count it as a watch. Disney Plus, I like this way better. They decided that it's overall view hours. Mm-hmm. So like overall, it was viewed this many hours, and that was
And
number
you divide it by. Oh, I see what you're
and
saying.
yeah, and that was
Okay.
number one. And I think that's a good way to look at it. But again, how does that come down? How does that relate to dollars and cents? What does that mean for Hocus Pocus 2? If they would have put that movie in theaters, it would have done well. It would have been successful. I don't think it means that. Of course, it doesn't mean that. But it's just hard when you have no way to truly gauge, what these things are doing. If you put out, the only record of this that we have to really show that something made a difference, and this is crazy, and I know you don't know this, but out of all the things that came out, there was a big thing for release the Snyder cut of Justice League, a huge thing for it. And of all the things that came out, even when it came out, the Snyder cut, it didn't gain HBO Max new subscribers, but something did gain one streaming service, and it's HBO Max as well, new subscribers so much on such a big amount that they were able to gauge, hey, like,
this is making us
right?
money. Yeah.
And that was Sex in the City.
Oh, I believe it.
Exactly. And it just shows you that it's just, we're too new in this era to really have ways to gauge, like I said, especially when it comes to dollars and cents. So what does this mean moving forward for some movies too that may not do as well when it comes to like total hours, or with Netflix's thing, maybe people are viewing it for 10 minutes and then going, yeah, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. But you're still counting that as a view. And then HBO Max does it their own way, and Apple does it their own way, and Amazon does it their own way.
What do you believe?
And like you said, we used to be able to at least use box office to gauge these things and say, this movie made, $1 billion or $1 million or however much money. And this is how we could kind of gauge them. But as we move further into the streaming wars, as I'll call them, we're going to have to get to a point where we have some way to gauge it, and I mean, think about it as a creator standpoint. I bet, Bette Midler would have made, so much money if they would have made this much box office, right?
Absolutely.
Like if it would have made over $200 million, then you get a $20 million bonus, Bette Midler. Right. Well, where's that for streaming? Where's where are the royalties? What do all these things mean in that way? Because they're just so much different than they are when like what box office is, and now it's just like I said, it's just so convoluted with them all doing different things. And so what we probably need is like what they did with television, years ago, which is you bring in the FCC or the whatever
FCC
it is,
regulates it all.
Yeah, and then what's the guys?
The Nielsen
regulator. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Nielsen boxes, right?
Yep.
And so you can get a real gauge with those kind of things. And I think at some point, I mean, streaming services, and they're all going to have to get to a certain point like that so we can truly understand, what these films are doing and how successful they're actually being. Because then we could also get a gauge on, like, would maybe this have been a good idea to put in theaters? Because the fact of the matter is if this movie would have made, let's say, $100 million in theaters, that's way more than what they're making right now. Mm-hmm. Like, it's $100 million more than what they're making right now, pretty much. Because when you release a movie straight to streaming, you're almost just, taking a loss on it in a way. Now it works for something like The Irishman, where Scorsese, could go with this finished product, and he could go around to the streaming services and sell it. But again, it's still at its flat rate. So if he sold it to Netflix for $250 million, that's all he got. Mm-hmm. There's no potential of more. There's no, Netflix is like, well, if this many people view there is no number or thing for that, for him to gain more money, or for the actors or the crew and everyone else involved to be able to get more money on what we call the back end. Right. Yeah. And as we go along further, I think we have to get to a point where we do have some sort of way to gauge this on equal playing grounds, don't you think?
I mean, something has to come up, has to happen, because honestly, I think the scariest thought for me is that when all of a sudden, because like the top movie studios like Disney or you have Sony, they don't need to make movies. They're going to be profitable businesses. But then you got places like Universal or I guess Time Warner's AT&T now, so I guess Warner Brothers doesn't have to worry about anything anymore.
Right.
But Universal or Paramount, some of these smaller studios where it's like, everything banks on this movie. This movie has to be successful for us, or we're gonna lose our shirt. Whereas a Sony, it's like, oh, what's the big deal? We got Sony PlayStations that we can't keep a hold of.
Right,
We're gonna, we're gonna be making so much money.
Same with Disney and their parks and everything.
Exactly.
Else.
So they don't care. They can for Disney to put out like you said, Hocus Pocus 2 to put out this thing, they probably have less subscribers than a Netflix.
Right. So it's just marketing.
So it
basically
is
for them.
exactly, and it works because I'm over here going, hey, I'm watching it tonight.
Right. Yeah. For sure. And I mean, people are watching it. But again, it does bode the question. Would it have done well in theaters? Like especially again, it's October. I mean, this weekend at the box office, Smile was number 1.
Yeah.
I mean, could this have been number 2 at $15 million? And if so, how long can you just take those losses? I'm not sure what it cost to make Hocus Pocus 2, but I imagine, as you said, we live in a generation where you can't make a movie without spending some millions of dollars. So I'm sure they did. I'm sure just getting these,
I'm sure it's effects heavy. It's got to be in the $40-50 million
way better effects,
Yeah.
and I'm sure getting these beautiful ladies to come back wasn't probably cheap. I mean, when's the last time you've seen Bette Midler in something?
It's been a while.
So to get her up off the couch probably wasn't cheap either, and all of these things. And I think that like I said, as we move further into the streaming wars, we'll have to have a way to gauge it, just to be able to, like I said, appreciate these peoples and these creators for what they're doing. They're not every one of these guys is just doing it just because they love acting and love making movies. It's also a living for them. And to think that there's potential for money to be made that's left on the table because we're basically using this as a marketing scheme in a way. And again, like you said, it's worse for Disney Plus. It's worse for Apple. It's worse for Amazon because Apple's got a ton of money. Apple don't care about how well you think Apple cares about how good Apple Plus is doing?
No, not at all. Yeah.
They could give a damn how
Although
good
they
Apple.
have some really good content.
They do. I mean, they just won the Best Picture at the Academy
Ben
Award.
Stiller show, I got to watch that.
God, Severance?
Yes. Yeah,
it's amazing. And Blackbird's on there, the one I was saying with Ray Liotta's last.
How am I not subscribed?
And it's great, but again, the point is that, they could their priorities isn't making films and making media. Their priorities is making cell phones and selling phones. And they're able to, just blow off a bunch of money and use it because their goal right now is just to is like you said, the subscriber difference is huge. Netflix has more subscribers than all of these other places by
probably
hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
And so the idea is you give these people this free content and hope that they join your streaming service. And I totally understand that. And I mean, that's really the only way to go about it. But again, it would just be nice to have a way to kind of gauge these things moving forward. And I'm sure we will. I'm sure at some point, like I said, Nielsen, what do you think the odds are that Nielsen hasn't tried to contact these people and tried to be like, hey, I'm sure they have, and maybe there's something they're working on, but the thing is it's evolved so much year by year because, 10 years ago you just had Netflix, really, and then now you have so many, you got Netflix, Hulu, Peacock, Apple TV Plus, this plus, and so I think we'll have to wait until we get to a point where the dust kind of settles maybe because we're still so new into this streaming era. But once we do, I think we'll get a better look at those things. But the problem really is that by the time we get to there, that this streaming war will have killed the box office. So the question of, do we leave money on the table just won't exist anymore because there is no theaters. We're not. we're only putting it on our app, and that's what scares me the most is because as a movie loving guy, and I know we love watching movies in any form, in any place, in any way we can, but some movies are just a lot better to see on the big screen, and I would hate to see that go away. And I would hate to see, like I said, that people not, be given the chance to succeed. Again, for all we know, I don't think this is true at all, and I'm sure you don't think either, Shane. But for all we know, Hocus Pocus could have made $1 billion.
Who knows? We'll never know now.
And we will never know. And going back to the Keanu Reeves Berserker movie, that to me is the main issue, especially in this comic book era, world, is that are you leaving a bunch of money on the table?
We'll never know.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to figure it out some way, and I think you're right. They probably already are talking about this. We just don't know it yet.
Right. And I think eventually over time we'll hear about it and we'll understand more as we get through. Like I said, there'll be more of a criteria that'll be even along. It won't be, well, they view it this way and this is more ours viewed and this is, it won't be like that so much. And we'll have a way to see, but it happens now all the time. We'll see, Netflix will say, Stranger Things was, the biggest release on Netflix ever, season 4 or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, what does that compare to Hocus Pocus 2 being, well, we completely do it separately. So there's no way for us to, compare these things, and that's just crazy, and I think we have to get past that. But I'm looking forward to the Berserker movie. If they make it, I would love to see Keanu Reeves. I'm gonna go check out this Man from Tai Chi.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go check that out. I really am. I think
seems cool.
I'm right. The idea of him directing a movie that he stars into seems cool. It's got good reviews. Like I said, I'm gonna go check it out, and hopefully to give me a little bit more insight onto what it would be like to have this movie directed by him and starred in by him, since we kind of already have at least one example of it out there. So I'm gonna go check it out. Shane, I'm sure you'll want to check this movie out. Maybe not in theaters, but you'll definitely put it on if it's on Netflix.
Keanu
or
Reeves,
something.
why not? Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, guys, let us know down in the comment section. What do you guys think about Keanu Reeves? I know you guys love him. So let us know all your Keanu Reeves love down in the comment section. Are you guys excited about Berserker? Do you guys read the Berserker comics? Do you know anything about those? I know it's not a very old series, but man, it looks great. So let us know down in the comment section what you guys think.